can't believe I say this sometimes. When we were at 18.5 million turnover, we were making 3.3 million EBITDA profit sterling. I genuinely believe in the power of a deep breath to reset the mind. That's the genius of humanity. We innovate and we improve.
Hi, I'm Caroline Carey and welcome to the Eat, Nourish, Love podcast. For over 20 years, I've created events, raised over 4 million for good causes, and been lucky enough to meet some incredible people along the way. This podcast is about exploring stories and insights that really shape us, with inspiring guests from wellness, business, self-care and personal growth. It's about learning to trust our intuition and discovering what truly matters, and how, with hard work, belief and tenacity, we can make so many things happen.
So there are lots of guests I've had on this podcast and it's been a very exciting time. But honestly, I'm so delighted to welcome you, Lara, this morning, because honestly, we've been through quite a lot. I've known you for many years. There's a lot of history there. So welcome to the podcast this morning.
Thank you very much, Caroline. I am tickled and a little bit nervous to be here, so let's crack on.
So when I say we go back many years, well, in fact, I hadn't realised there was a connection to my grandfather who was in the Duke of Wellington's, and I did this big fundraising for the Duke of Wellington's memorial. And then I bumped into your mum at one of the lunches and then realised that your father, and I think he was a rugby player, wasn't he?
He was a pretty decent rugby player. Sports has been one of my lucky cards in life.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to that because I think you've got a big message in sport as well. But also I've been to a lot of your talks. You've written the most amazing book, More Balls Than Most. So that absolutely sums you up because you've given me strength in what I've done in the last couple of years. And I will say to you, I'm incredibly grateful. You have the biggest heart, and even though you're strong, you're always there for people. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for me. But so
You're welcome.
You tell me how this all started, the story, with the Pacific and how that all worked?
Yeah, I mean, I've been extremely lucky in the sense that I grew up in Hong Kong, but my parents were unbelievably invested in education, so they suffered for me to go to a private school in Scotland. So this 11-year-old child would travel halfway around the world, quite literally, on 7 modes of transport to earn points in confidence and a global outlook and languages and unbelievable privileged sort of experiences as a young child, both growing up in Asia and having those experiences and seeing how hard people in Asia would work and learning about face and culture and all of those rich experiences, whilst also having the grounding of sort of Scottish border grandparents and a private school privilege, which was for me just 9 lacrosse and hockey pitches, and the most important things in life were how fast I could swim and how much mud I could cope with, and did I win at cross country, and it mattered sort of. So that then turned into a unfortunate long period of time while my father was trying to build his own computer business that went bankrupt. By then I think we were extraordinary sort of 16, 17, 18-year-old independent kids, and I laugh when I know that my children are equally independent because I have made them suffer by handing them passports at an airport and saying, take me to wherever it is, and trying to teach them some of the skills where I was thrown in the deep end. Because at the age of 18, when my dad went bankrupt, I genuinely wanted to be a, sports, well, originally scientist was the excuse, but I was really just going to play more sports at Loughborough. Dad went bankrupt. I got a job in Hong Kong. I sold promotional giveaways, and by the age of 23, I'd started running my own company because my boyfriend had come back to do an MBA in Cranfield. And then I had a very sort of phenomenal ability to employ unbelievably talented, great people, better than me, all older, all wiser. And thank God I knew that it was 2 ears and 1 mouth, because I built a business over those 17 years up to the age of 39 that did, I can't believe I say this sometimes, when we were at 18.5 million turnover, we were making 3.3 million EBITDA profit sterling at a time when the currency was very strong in America. So we were really we traded in 110 countries, globally, had a very international export outlook. We manufactured miniature hotel toiletries, which everybody on this podcast will have nicked and taken home until they started bolting them to the wall, Caroline. But, I have no shame. I never stopped at sort of shampoo and shower gel, sanitary bags, Hour Gap, shoe shine, anything you could nick. So that was now over 17 years ago. And then since then, I've had the luck of exiting, which is a miracle that I didn't realise, like everything I've achieved in terms of, I kind of go in and I try and do my best. And then I discover, luckily, that actually I'm probably trying to push water uphill, but I'm bloody minded and I learn along the way. And since then, I've invested in health and wellness companies. But I have to say that the last 17 years have been the most challenging because I now try and support brands and inventions. And previously, I was simply just placing gorgeous licensed Bulgari and Penhaligons into beautiful hotels and living the life of Riley on reflection.
It's interesting because how the world's changed and that sounds sort of a bit strange really, but your grandmother was quite a big part in your life, wasn't she, as well?
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, you talk about, and people often say mother, and I've had amazing experiences with my own mum being unbelievably hardworking when we were kids in Hong Kong, trying to keep us in school and pay the bills by being a good English teacher. But my grandmother was the one that basically said, you need to go to the Dorchester, darling. They'll give you fresh orange juice and a decent coffee, and you won't starve selling these idiotic products. And she, but actually she was firm and fair, and we used to spend a lot of our boarding school holidays with her. So I was shaped by my grandparents and the importance of old-fashioned values. And, if you keep turning up, good things happen. And the more you put into life, the more you get out, and what goes around comes around. And that kind of transparency and authenticity around give before you get, because you will always get more out when you put stuff in. And, I could talk about look after the pennies and the pounds look after themselves. And if at first you don't succeed, try again was my father's mantra. So, genuinely that shaped my enterprise. And then secondly, I think having an older brother was the other sort of competitive feature of little sister scrambling up mountains and trying to keep up on the golf course or whatever it was. Those things of being encouraged to believe that there was equality and that I could do whatever anyone else could do is an enormous gift. And I would suggest that having an older brother is an asset in enterprise.
Oh, I'm sure Annabelle will enjoy, will enjoy listening to that with two older brothers. So she's got her work cut out. This podcast is all about belief, hard work and tenacity can make many things happen. And I really believe that. This is probably my truth, if you like. It's taken me time, a few years, to get there, to understand what it's all about. And this whole world belief, people say, well, if you believe, you can make it happen. I'm a great believer that belief comes from the hard work, because as you do the things, you get the belief because you're doing it.
I live and die by quotes that I see that are probably keeping me hanging on by the fingernails sometimes, because the journey in enterprise, building things, we can't always be in control of world events. We can't even, what's going on in the world and what's happening at the moment is in all of my years. And, if I reflect, I'm too many years, 40 years in enterprise, properly, working. Later this year, I'll celebrate a 40th. And one of my, reflections is it's never been harder. And if we weren't keeping turning up to create our luck, then that's at the time when you've run out of the energy and maybe you should stop and reflect and really change. But personally, my Scentered brand, which is about mindful well-being, ironically is the most stressful, most emotional, most extraordinary journey of my enterprise career in building this brand. And I can't tell you how hard it is to make a brand and to stick to an intention. And this time round, I'm not just selling bars of soaps to hotels. I'm building a brand that hopefully will create a pot of mental health support, because there isn't enough in any country. We've been on some personal journeys that have taught us about stress. And I come from a military background where, bottom lip quiver was just, the emotion of that was a no, that wasn't available to So, I feel I can so relate much better today than in my first journey, where I was jolly lucky. We did the unbelievably rare hockey stick. We grew my team and I grew the 57th fastest growing company in Britain. It was not always easy. We had September the 11th, and I put the house on the line to stay because the banks, aren't easy. But now things are so different, and I would say everybody that's running an enterprise today is having a mental journey that is deeply demanding. So you've got to duck and dive and beg and borrow.
So let's go back to Scentered, because Scentered came about at a time in your life where this was so important to you, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's both personal and, says she, the idea that I wouldn't allow myself, you can hear it in my voice, to suffer from stress, because mum of 3, building one of Britain's global, most successful companies, huge responsibility, 476 staff, global company, offices in 11 countries. I mean, that sounds relatively normal, but not really for a 32-year-old, right? So when I reflect on that, and I'm 57, I was having an argument with my mum when I was lying about not being tired, and I was apparently twitching and blinking at her and going, "I'm fine." And she's going, "You are not fine." And ironically bought me some aromatherapy oils and said, "You need a jolly good night's sleep," because every life starts with if you can, I don't know what it would be like to have an insomnia illness or something, because a good night's sleep improves everything. And ultimately that then made me have this adjustment and go, actually, I think there's something really positive to be done, because science proves that scent affects mindset, and it's the only of our senses that's directly connected to the brain. And I believe in science and I believe in impact, but I believe in the naturals as well. So, and ironically, a man invented the name Scentered. I was stalked by a guy who said, "I want to help women lose weight." And I said, "Absolutely not interested." But he rightly then challenged and said, "But you know a lot about scent. Why don't you do something positive?" And so the whole idea of our 6 lifestyle scents is I can transport you and your mindset to a happy place, or to a touch of balance through our love balm. And we get the most phenomenal feedback on the idea that I am selling a mini pocket rocket to help somebody go, actually just stop, take a deep breath. So you inhale that wellness, because oxygen injects your body with energy. That's how I see my engine. And then have a rethink. And maybe you don't, bellow at the children as they get in the car when you pick them up from school because you're feeling fractured or stressed. Or maybe in the morning you're just going, "I've got my few minutes," and that allows me to plan and cope and have some level of control over the controllables. So yeah, probably a long answer, but Scentered has changed my life in terms of being able to build a purposeful product that in the end, I want to change the choice of what you get at a coffee shop. There should be a touch of kind, repeat use wellness that isn't a sugary, rubbishy sweet and don't get me wrong, I'm perfectly normal. I don't want them to kill carrot cake entirely, but because carrot cake's important, but it's not important every day, and there's no healthy alternative at all of our till points. So the idea that we can have a miniature well-being proposition that you can take away, and like a lip balm, but a mind balm for pulse points, we can change lives. We can create conversations, and that is wellness in a easily affordable format.
It's extraordinary, because I think that, yes, we've had various things going on in our lives, and, I grew up, in a very sort of stable environment, but there wasn't the noise. I see my children and now them bringing in their grandchildren, and the effort. Yes, you might be able to get things delivered to the door, but the choice, the noise, I just think it's quite hard for them. So I think this whole reset and wellness side is so important, and we just need to look after them as much as possible.
But it's we as a society. I mean, there's a couple of things I want to do next as well. Like, I've got an idea around balance, literally human balance, and I've got a product in evolving stages because I can't help myself. I'm an addict entrepreneur. But, you know, I learned from a yoga company I invested in about the importance of balance. And something like 27% of the NHS bill is because people fall over. It ultimately connected in some shape or form. Now, it could be a young person, but it's majority. You know, if we can get the elderly to balance better by using their core and frankly, not becoming lazy. But, you know, all of these things take habitual discipline. Well, habitual discipline requires a trigger. And my view is if you can have a mini pocket rocket, a little balm that is like a lip balm, but even more conveniently smaller. And, you know, that is the discovery set. I'll show it to the screen, but Scentered. And the idea that I have this mantra enhanced by scent. If I can have that in every pencil case, because, you know, our daughters went through struggles, this wave of social media where one of my children was literally, my 24-year-old was saying yesterday, I just think we should all come off it. I loathe it. She's an artist. She's a yogi. And I say, no. There are strengths and weaknesses to how we live our lives, but we're forgetting to educate self-discipline. And some of the man-upness is the wrong language. But let me tell you, sucking it up, if that's what you want to call it, and understanding that not every day is a picnic and a holiday, and you don't always get your choices, and actually they might run out of carrot cake, and that would be heartbreaking for me on the day I need it. But it obviously wasn't meant to be, and I'm also serendipitous, right? And if it isn't meant to be, it won't be. And that's where this sort of crossover in relationship and friendship can be so valuable, because you might have someone who does say to you, actually, you're being a bit childish, and but how can I help you?
But
right? And that's
I mean, that's something you've got in spades, and as I said from the beginning point of it, and there's a lot of people who say, I'm going to come off social media, I'm going to cut out sugar, I'm going to fast for 3 days, and I will do all of that too. But you can't eliminate it. It's there. What we have to do is learn to live with it, moderate exactly. And you know, and you've come into my life many times, and you've said something to me that's resonated really well and given me strength to do it. But you need someone to say, come on, you know, as I've said to other people, you know, you've got to work with that. You've got to lean in and get some grit and go with it. But equally, you've got to put the right things around you so that you are stable within that environment.
Yeah, and we all need, you know, I do think luck plays a part, and you know, that's the most unbusiness but serendipitous belief, because if you keep turning up and if you're brave enough, like when I was 23 and would go into a room of suits that used to scare me witless, right? You know, nevertheless, I would gradually learn to network. And by the way, you go after 3 people because 2 people have eye contact, and you pick one off in a room so that you're never left alone. Don't dive for the coffee table. But hopefully, you know, we can get the young back into office spaces. And because the things I learned from older, wiser, who I probably didn't respect enough at the time, and I've got a lot to learn still, you know, people, by bothering to be there, even on the days when, frankly, I wanted to read a book at bedtime. You know, I've made sacrifices to become wealthy. Wealthy doesn't buy happiness, that I can tell you on a longer story, but what I can tell you is it buys choice. And now I choose to dedicate the time that I'm that barking mad that I don't have to work, but I love what I do because I think it can move a needle. And I think if you're infectious with positivity and with a determination, and this is genuinely, I am praying this is right, but the idea that I can sell a candle set that says press pause on it to the mum that used to be me, who doesn't even have 20 minutes in a week to herself because she's torn between picking the children up here, getting the job done, making sure there's food on the table. You know, I want to affect lives. You know, we have all of these things have come from my innovation, although one, I'm going to steal a new idea, which I'm trying to formulate, and any ideas would be welcome, but a survival set where this guy was selling a penny, and I said, a penny for your thoughts, and he said, no, a penny so you're never going to be poor. And he said, and I've put 2 marbles in this box in case you lose yours. And that's how I feel sometimes. So, you know, he made me giggle, and oh my God, the joy of making someone laugh or smile, a stranger. That's something my mum taught me. And that in itself is a gift. A gift of kindness, the gift of time, of recognition, a passing moment. I do think that's where social is letting us down in a dreadful way, because you see people in restaurants with their heads down, families barely talking. I mean, we have no weapons, our phones in our house, and we have no weapons in the kitchen. No, there would never be a weapon on the table if we went out to supper. That is a riotous opportunity to exchange lessons, learning experiences, laughter. Oh, I would pay to have supper with my children all day long.
Yes, you forget that, don't you? And it's all about the relationships. I mean, it's one of the reasons why, what I'm doing at the moment with the Eat Nourish Love, it's all about the relationships and bringing those people back, because we've had time, we've listened, we know the stories, we know each other. And so therefore we can identify and help each other and be those supportive friends.
Yeah, and I mean, we've just made a puzzle, and the puzzle is cut out according to the shape of how the customer wants to communicate a story. And a friend of mine who owns a very posh hotel called the Yeatman in Porto is brilliantly invented, a bunch of grapes, a bottle, a barrel. And he's celebrating the fact that the Yeatman is in Porto, where they make port wine, and you tell the story within the puzzle. And I hadn't innovated that idea, but that's the genius of humanity. We innovate and we improve. And I think there's a lot of stress around AI at the moment, and there are parts of ages and stages who perhaps are going, I just don't need this new iteration in my life. And then I'm the one that's obviously, I love new, I love learning. I want to keep using the brain, and I see the positives. But I literally used AI the other day and thought, oh my God, I'm asking it to ask me the question that I should be thinking of, and so am I becoming lazy? And so I'm also hopefully being circumspect enough to see the features and benefits and the values of the digital and the social and AI and all this. And yes, there will be changes in job, and there probably will be a lull. And I think there are hideous redundancies going on at the moment. But actually the people that keep turning up, or that are perhaps prepared to do an interim job serving on the tills of X, Y, and Z because they're not over proud, and actually they might meet someone really interesting, and that could be a new way to a job. I think those that keep at it create their luck, and then you grow.
It's moving very fast, and where we couldn't detect what jobs were going to happen 5 years ago, now you don't know what's going to happen next year. I mean, it's going so fast, and I think the one thing that AI doesn't have is the power of the blank page, and that's what we still have. And that I'm doing a talk with Zibla Kelly at the Eat Nourish Love Autumn Fair about the power of the pen, power of the written word. And I think that's really important. But we have those ideas. So if we can use AI to help us with the new ideas, that is a huge advantage to it.
Yeah, and I mean, equally, take the time that you save and then get a plan around how to maximise the value. Don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as an opportunity. I mean, I even used to preach in my first company, when somebody would say, well, we've got a problem, I would say, no, I think you'll find we've got an opportunity. And I'm ridiculously clear about and it was my father's brilliance, actually. The thing that he loved was the English language, and he read Rudyard Kipling, and what a gift. That he said to me, use the words that you have with considered intent and say what you mean. And I frankly am getting more frustrated by vagary as I become more impatient as a grotty, growing older nightmare to live with. And I don't like lack of clarity. So I want people to say what they want to say. I mean, I'm pretty well known for, ironically, I sell a bunch of tins because I sold a jet lag recovery kit years ago to Intercontinental Hotels, part of our story. But that's why all the Scentered products are in tins, because, have some authenticity. Build sustainability into what you do. Sustainability matters. I've worked 4.5 years at one stage just to get this flipping hard balm ready for travel and portability. But more so, another relentless 4.5 years to make it refillable, because I care, right? And I've learned lessons, and I should put that back into life. And, still it amazes me, 3 children, one gives a toss about the environment, one's kind of, yeah, and the other one is relentlessly never going to go into any disposable shop and buys everything she has in a charity shop. And we've got different children with different outlooks, and we need to learn from them. And humanity would be really dull if we were all the same. But I do think there is a missing kind of, sometimes we don't get what we want in life, right? And therefore you just have to paddle harder.
I think you've talked about this before. It's, it's you make the change. It's all about this thing about women and founders and what we do, and should we be? But actually, we as females have to make that change. We have to be involved in it. We have to be there and turn up.
As an investor, which sounds, sadly, I'm rare as rocking horse shit, and I'm 6 million quid in, which is a lot of money. But I earned the money. Yep. Yeah, but I mean, you win some, you lose some. But, I am frustrated by this 1.8% that is invested in women. But the truth is, some of the women are not prepared to make what is sacrifices that you make in running a business. And be under no illusions, it has consequential effect that I've had some roller coaster rides with my own children, because I haven't been around as perhaps some mums. I'm never going to mislead the mums that choose to work, and I admire them, their way and be at home more consistently. It wasn't for me. But today, ironically, my powerful network, I guess, and my connections and my business knowledge are a different kind of asset to my kids that mum who might have stayed at home probably doesn't have that level of. So I do believe, again, albeit I've been praying that this was the output, that I would become extremely useful and valuable to them one day. It's not a perfect journey, and we have to choose, because there's this amazing saying that an African friend taught me, and it was, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. And that is so true, which is you have to be happy in yourself in order to support the rest and around you. And this idea that we, should treat ourselves is rubbish. We should just look after ourselves. And it's back to that moderation piece where, I've just done a recording for an American company yesterday, and I had to say the words, welcome to Microdose Monday. Well, actually, what about welcome to Microdose every day? Put something into you, right? Invest in yourself. Is it, and of course I'm biased because I'm an early bird, so I like to get stuff done, whether it's my sweat or my run or my, but actually, people that aren't disciplined and don't have a system, I just believe that's where the school system lets us down, because we can get more out of life when we try and fit more in. But that's, my personal bias.
I think that's true. I'd like to go back. So there's lots of things here, because I think you're very hungry. I think you're very curious. But also I want to go back to the sports side of it, because I know that, you're a great athlete. You're very sporty. Competition. But also you talk about balance and all the things that coming, because that will come from all your sport side as well. So what is it that you think that by being sporty and investing your time in exercise helps in your life?
So for all of my life, fitness and exercise has been the go-to release of stress, right? And I didn't, obviously as a child, you play because it's fun, hopefully, and my parents encouraged us to frankly have a go at everything, starting with picking up their tennis balls, which I now reflect upon as child labour. But, fair enough. I mean, the answer is that I had no idea until I became an adult. And in fact, pretty much until I sold my first company and then realised that the only thing you can't buy is all the body parts to make a body again. And I've always looked after my body. I swam a mile with each child while I was pregnant every morning. That was my sanity and my time to myself. And of course, I then got competitive and annoyed people in the fast lane because I'm a decent swimmer. But the point is the no-nonsenseness of the feeling that I get when I've exercised allows me to construct myself for my day and feel because I'm competitive, right? I want to be ahead. It's just the way I am made. That's not to say that it's right for everybody, but for those that want to get ahead, you're going to have to be competitive. You've got to be resilient, and resilient in spades, because it sure as hell doesn't go right all of the time. And I think the disciplines that we learn, and I admire athletes, but then I feel so concerned that because of the way media works today, we then drop them like rocks and they go on this hideous mental health journey. So what I know is the one thing that they do and can fall back on is being fit in the body and the mind, and all these gyms and fitness places who promise something but deliver nothing for mindfulness. And they don't, it's coming. The gym world is changing, the fitness and the club world is changing. But recognizing that there are some people, like members of my team, who are terrified to become a member of a gym because they've had a bad experience, is something that we need to be deeply conscious that not everybody is like Lara and doesn't, I sweat like a baboon. I don't wear much makeup. I couldn't give a toss what people think of me when I am literally dripping on a bike. I've always been like this. I can't change it. It's how I grew up. And actually, it's just because I like to go fast, right? But I'm not self-conscious, maybe because I have that older brother. So I then have to recognize not everybody's as lucky as I am. And so I have to make a reasonable space for that. And then I think there is a compromise on everybody's parts to try and find somewhere that suits them. And that activity, that movement piece is everything in the rest of my life that I could impact on the world if I could be so lacking in graciousness in the sense of who am I to think that I want to do that? Well, actually, that's just, again, the way I'm made. I want to have a legacy that is meaningful, and I want to impact movement and healthy wellness and mindset and physicality, because, the idea that our children are obese by the time they've left primary school makes my skin crawl. It just makes me angry, and I don't want to be angry.
No, and I think it's identifying, what works for an individual and companies. But also, you are. It's very interesting when you talk about when you've employed people in the past and you've brought people on, and if they have got sport in their lives or they've got that discipline, there is a discipline, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I won't employ a salesperson that doesn't have some level of sporting outlook or ability, because I just think those extra skills that they bring to the party about targets and goal setting, and if at first you don't succeed, try again, turning up, practicing, having another bash, being resilient, getting knocked back, all of those things convert to selling. And don't get me wrong, again, I don't want everybody to be the same, but I do want people to realize there's an economic equation. This, my body, is the only one. And there's a brilliant Warren Beatty piece where he goes into a classroom and he says, if I gave you a car and it was the car you had to look after for life, and you could have any color and any brand and any design, tell me how you're going to look after it. And then he said, well, why don't you treat your engine that way? Right? Your engine is your body, and we've got one, right? And we can't buy all the body parts. Why don't we teach children this engine performs according to how you put petrol into it? And if you put the wrong petrol in, it doesn't perform very well. And I just think we can simplify the education system to get people to treat raising their heart rates like brushing their teeth. And, I expect my kids to look after their health because they've been shown that that is important for them, not just physically, but mentally.
Well, because it comes down to mindset. Talking about schools and how education, I mean, I think it's going to be a very, very big shake-up in the next few years, isn't it? With schools and what they're being taught and how they got to change, because it's just not.
And university, correct. I mean, we were talking about that very thing. And, I was once explained by a very senior lecturer 10 years ago that universities are dead because, truthfully, we don't need to gather around the book, which is why universities began in the first place. And we haven't needed to do that since the web was invented. But what we do know is humans need to not have loneliness. And we do need community, desperately important to have, as proved in blue zones. And if you study Dan Buettner's blue zone information, the communities that have known each other and have great friendships last longer. And actually, because of the sacrifices I've made, I'm conscious that I very luckily have a handful of extremely good friends who've put up with my madness, and some of them are equally bonkers, but and we may see each other once every 2 years, but boy, do we enjoy it. And it's that hopefully is the bedrock of knowing that you restore yourself and you care for that part of your life. Because I worry that too much, when you look at these graphs, that how much time are you spending on your phone? How much time are you scrolling? It's appalling the damage that is doing to good old-fashioned, let's get round a Sunday lunch conversation and have laughter and who's going to have the last Yorkshire pudding, because if I've got a chance, it'll be mine, But, that and yeah, so that and the sweat, the exercise piece, I'm not perfect by any shape. I'm rubbish at so much stuff, but I try.
But it is that community. It's my favourite thing is when I've got all the family here and you're cooking for them and you've got everything out there. I mean, I was very lucky. I went to Prue for a year. I did a diploma course and then went back and worked with Prue. And I've got Caroline Walgrave, who was the founder of Prue, and she's coming to talk at the fair. And when she was just talking about food and how she loves food and it's all about the community and sitting around the table. There's nothing better, is there, than having everyone there and enjoying it and being part of it. And I think it's a huge asset to bring to the table. Just let me ask you a little bit about your other investments and the other companies you've got involved in.
So, mixed bag and some frustrations and mistakes, obviously, because I'm very good at those. I had a fantastic investment, a very unbelievable investment, but I always make it clear that my investment in Dry Robe was in a product that is just a genius outdoor change robe, invented by a lady who was trying to keep her son warm on the beach. He was a surfer, Gideon. So I was in Dry Robe for a very fast ride, and a lot of people will know Dry Robe, but we now have a business called Parker in the States, Parcca, which is an evolution, and we've learned some lessons, so that's really cool. And Parker just keeps you warm, whether you're in a stadium. It's just genius. Having it as an investment in a yoga company called Yogi Bear, which taught me some things about culture and style of people, and we had a amazing ride during COVID. But of course, everybody who's got a yoga mat now doesn't want another one because they're not at home doing yoga like they were trapped with COVID. So that's a roller coaster. It's tough. I have Kit Bricks, which has changed my life in terms of, I should flash my unbelievably clever, not my invention again. Oh, I should, yes. Look, right by me. Here's the Kit Bricks waterproof-based bag. And this waterproof, ridiculously moulded base bricks bag, which also has a wet-dry locker on the side, means I can horribly exercise or swim on the way to whatever meeting and still look half decent. But more importantly, I can stand on the sideline and watch my kids play hockey or rugby on a muddy, whatever it is. I can go anywhere, even to a grotty train station bog, and put my bag down and feel fine. And because I liked that invention concept, I invested in a military guy because I'm a sucker of my dad's background. But Kit Bricks is really, is a game changer in terms of robust kit. And what that taught me again is, it takes time to make a great product, but it also comes with challenges of more people being able to do it or not, as in meaning make it. And actually, the annoying thing about the Kit Bricks bag is it lasts for bloody ever. So I've got to always find new customers. So that's a lesson again in business. Whereas when you sell a bar of soap to hotels, if there's someone in the bedroom, the bar of soap goes, right? So I've learned all these lessons, and
I was always told disposable, repeatable products, because I was in a network marketing company for a long time, and I was in there.
I'm building quite the opposite, because I think the world is changing, and I think the next generation will appreciate more. And there's definitely a proportion that already do. We make our bags out of recycled fabric, not the base, because I haven't managed that technically wise, because the wear and tear of having a bag that lasts for nearly ever. And of course, I've got to language it right, but it does bring an extra cost because you're demonstrating, and you've got to kind of wait the period of time where you then get raving fans who go, and it's so annoying when they come up to me and they go, I've had my bag for 9 years. I love it. It looks as good as new. And I'm like, I'm so excited for you, but I'd like you to buy another one now. Would you like another colour? So, yeah, and they zip together. One of the stars is modular. Game-changing. I came from triathlon, but these investments have all been because of something innovative that made a point, a USP, a unique selling point. And again, that's only my learning around all the mistakes I made in supplying hotels for a living. Once you become a specialist and you stick to your knitting And boy, do you have to be brave sometimes to walk away from something that isn't where the direction that your bus is going in. There's a Jim Collins brilliant business book, Good to Great, and he talks about the hedgehog principle. And sometimes you have to turn away things that, and particularly now, people will be going, I just need to pay the bills. And I understand that. But if the strategy is this direction and you're dragging your business too many times on a survival basis in another direction, you no longer have a strategy. So, and I went to Stanford to learn about strategy is destiny. Again, that changed my life. But that's good education that's cutting edge. Felt deeply, I scared witless to go to the Stanford campus. But it's one of my joys that, we earned the ability and that, again, these other investments are allegedly from that strategy is destiny course. But I'm breaking rules because I don't want to invest in a mix of stuff. I don't know what I'm doing. I like sports. I like health. I can't buy my health. I might as well invest in it. Spend time in a place where I get to meet Paula Radcliffe, and who's a genius runner. And I laugh when I'm out running and I go, oh, I'm having a Paula moment. I've never had a Paula moment in my life. I've never run that quickly. But she and Steve Kramer in Kit Bricks, what joy does that bring that I've met these superbly decent human beings who have represented our country and created so much joy and so much inspiration for others that I find that deeply rewarding.
Do you know,
frankly.
I love this because it's something that a lot of people say to me, well, because I know it's always tough with all of us. We've got various things and bills to pay, etc. Why don't you go and get a good job, or why don't you go and do that, and why do you do what you do? And obviously I've done lots of fundraising, but it's because it gets me up in the morning. It gets me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, keeps me up till 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't do that all the time, I promise you. But, and actually there's a hunger to it. I've met the most extraordinary people. If I was really to look at my book, well, I don't really, but and well, you for example, and all the people there that have given me so much inspiration and so much, and I've got a hunger. I don't know where it comes from. I have a hunger, and it's not going to go away, whatever. And I'm able now just to say, oh, all those people I met, let's put them all into this pot and let's all get together and make something really great out of it. And I think that's lovely. But it is as I say, it's extraordinary, and it's a privilege to have met so many amazing people.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much I align with that. And I'm, at the moment a friend owes me money, and I owe another friend some money because cash is tight and it's a juggle, and it's not a perfect world, right? And I'm not saying that the ride is easy, but what I'm saying is the relationship that you have, and we all make mistakes, but something you just made me trigger was, I spent Friday afternoon ringing around all of my team to say just thank you. Thank you, because August is going to be brutal. July was rubbish anyway, albeit better than in some areas than I hoped. It's not a perfect journey, but thank you is free. And, there's a lot of things that at the moment we need, and again, this is me. I do believe in kindness. I believe in, I ultimately live by a problem shared is a problem halved. And that's why, Caroline, very honestly, I try and I have to find a balance, because I sometimes put in too much time into others when I personally should have been focusing on what I was doing. But I still believe that then creates the next relationship and the next connection, and you get what you get what you put into life. I don't want to sit on the sidelines. I don't want to have an average life. I live as a digital nomad, brackets homeless. Not really, but what a joy to have 2 bikes in the back of the car and to decide where will we go. And that's what we've been doing in America for 2 years, because we've earned that privilege. So, but I think the consciousness and the respect of that, indulgence still is inspirational to me and motivates me, and is something I want to do.
And what do you see? You've seen these people setting up the businesses, founders, and everything else. And what do you really admire in founders and people setting up the entrepreneurs in this world?
I think a determination to solve a problem, a real problem, right? And many ideas fail. I read something in Instagram this morning. 93% of drinks companies that come to market fail within 2 years, I think John Stapleton wrote. I know that 57% of all businesses don't make it to their 55th year anniversary. How do I verbalize this? I have a concern that there is an immense change going on where brands take a lot of money to build and a deeper amount of resilience than most people have, because it is hard to create a new product that people want to invest in. And there is a hugely greedy, tech-focused other side of investment, which is blind to the lost value of other types of companies that are not product, meaning they're all tech. And I'm not verbalizing this at all clearly, but what I'm saying is I feel frustration that there's more and more of a divide, that everything has to be tech related when it simply can't be, right? But actually, I also know that we don't need another backpack in the world. We just need a better backpack. So don't do it unless it's better. And that's where the entrepreneur that is driven and passionate and authentically testing that their product is better or original, different value, more added value, more sustainably presented, made in a way that can be refilled or lasts for a lifetime. I'm hoping that that product piece comes through. I believe it will, because I see how my children purchase. But business isn't getting any easier. Brand building is very expensive. Fighting in the ranks of advertising on Amazon, where the model suits the customer and the brand is always treated as second party, annoys me. But we're in this playing field, and thus we fight on.
I think I actually am moved by what you talked about, because I think one thinks that tech, and I'm a great believer in tech too, it's going to solve the problems. Like you said to me, get your data sorted, darling, and I did.
Data is gold.
But and you put that onto it, and that's on platforms, etc., etc. But the data's been formed by conversations out there in the street with people. It doesn't come from tech. Tech can help you. So it's understanding how that all works. And we've got to be out there in front of people. I mean, Simon Sinek has written this book about friendships. Who would thought he would write a book about that? Well, it's about the relationships of friendships. And that's why you and I are here together. And I'm so grateful to your support. And one of the stories that I've never forgotten, when you were on stage, when you were doing something for Salisbury Journal, I think it was, with Bill Brown. And you said that there's someone who just wouldn't give you the time of day, and you put in a post a big pair of knickers.
Actually, I think this one. So I've done weird things, but I think I sent her a tin of treacle and I asked her to try, and I put a post-it note saying, run through this. It's like trying to get a hold of you. And Jane Brightwell immediately rang me. And I say to a lot of people I meet, particularly women, put your big pants on and fake it till you make it, and ask for double, because that's what the boys do. And I've sent a tube of Savlon to a guy at a group of hotels, and because he said to me, your bid is painful. And I said, but is it the right bid? And so I said, I sent him some Savlon to salve the wound, and he gave me the business. Because actually, don't be normal, don't be weird, but don't be average, be creative. The supermarket and the pharmacy are full of fun things. That we can send the customer to give them a smile, because goodness knows, we all want to be smiling, right? Let's just make each other's lives a bit better.
It's totally that. So a couple of things before we leave. Firstly, I want to say, where are you going? What's the future for you?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, Charlie and I keep meaning to go, and he's about to go and cycle on the South Downs this week, and I'm going, great, I get some me time. We're thinking about going back to America for a couple of months, and then I think we'll probably live in Europe next year in the back of a camper van for as many days as we're allowed, and with bicycles. But my next big adventure is I'm cycling, and I've been doing this for 12 years now, but we start on the near Pakistan border in Jaisalmer. We cycle to Agra, and that is my, I think, 13th stage of Ride 25. And we've made £1.8 million for children in Uganda. So I'm very proud of that.
you are the most extraordinary and kind,
Oh, bless you.
and you are absolutely incredible. I always ask people, because I always believe in the power of three: inspire, engage, and bring people together. As you do, what are the three things you'd like to leave people with? Our listeners are sort of combination of people who are entrepreneurs, business founders, but also people who are very interested in their health.
So I think on the wellness side, honestly, with or without the Scentered brand product, give yourself a break. Use the stop, inhale, reset mantra. I own it. You have my blessing, but I'm trademarked because I genuinely believe in the power of a deep breath to reset the mind. So that's an absolute certainty. The truth is, if you enhance it with scent, and you will gravitate to the things that you need, the ingredients, whether it's frankincense or a cedar wood that's grounding, or an uplifting grapefruit and lemon myrtle. But that's one. Number two, if at first you don't succeed, try again is not entirely true. I think it's all about the learning. And I think, like I said to you earlier, data is gold. But yet it's a combination of also gut sense. I've never found that my gut has let me down, and I believe in the feeling of that power of feeling right about something. And then I guess the third is, your health is your wealth. There's a wonderful saying, which is, if you have your health, you have 100 problems. But if you don't have your health, you have one problem. So I believe in disproportionately investing in the fear that I want to stave off if I'm lucky enough, because I've sweated enough, and it's completely illogical, I know. But I figure if I put more effort in, then I can achieve more. And whilst I'm on this planet, I get more done and I'm having more fun. That's where I come from.
Oh, I have loved our conversation. These sort of conversations are never planned. They just go as they go because of the friendship that we have. And I can't tell you, thank you so much for all your support that you've given me. A lot of the things that you said are always there at the back of my mind. I can hear you saying it because you have such truth and such honesty and also huge clarity. So thank you so much for spending the time with me today.
I wish you well, Caroline.
Thank you.